Jodie Bliss, and I am an artist, a metalsmith from Monument, Colorado. I generally, in my work, like to lead with the fact that I'm an artist. I use blacksmithing techniques, I use metalworking techniques, but for me, the beginning of a project starts with the design, and the end goal is producing a piece of artwork. So I use whatever tools I need to get to the finished result that I want. So that means that I use CNC machines, I use welders, I use grinders. Nobody's going to accuse me of being a traditional blacksmith. However, because you are a blacksmithing organization, I'm going to focus today on some blacksmithing techniques. So I'm going to use the power hammer today for a couple of techniques. I'm going to use the treadle hammer to show you how I do detailing. And then I'm also going to use several different swedge blocks to show you how I shape and form a face for a portrait. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you guys for having me on. These are some of the tools I'm going to be using today. I may pull out some other ones, but these are the ones I've pulled out to start with. This is a 3/4 inch ball tool. So you can see in there I can take a piece of round bar and put a ball on the end of it. It's a pretty heavy hammer, but I've got a rounding hammer on one side and a flatter on the other. This is a lot heavier than what I normally use. This is my favorite hammer. I think it's like 1 1/4 pounds, 1 1/2 pounds. This is what I use like 90% of the time. I love this hammer. So yeah, that's what I'm starting with, and throughout the process I'll probably pull some other stuff in, and I'll tell you about that when I do. Also, on the topic of tools, one of the pieces of equipment I'm going to be using is this treadle hammer. I use this to put little details into work. So I've just picked out a couple of my favorite treadle tools, and I'll probably stick to these, although I may pick up some other ones, and I'll show you if I do. Yep. All right, so before I pop the face in the forge, I'm going to show you what I did. I ground and cleaned it up, and kind of importantly, I did a slight bevel around the edge. On pieces that I want to have a nice clean finish, I'll do this before forging. I just think it comes out a lot nicer, and then if you put any nice hammer marks in the edge throughout the process, then you don't have to come back and grind over your nice marks. So I don't always do this. If I'm doing a lot of pieces for a project, a lot of times the power hammer is going to knock the slag off anyway, and if I'm beating it up, it's like it doesn't really matter as much. You know, if the slag stays on there and makes indentations, it just adds, it kind of blends into the texture. But on something like this, where I really want to have kind of a refined finish, especially on a female face, we don't really like having little indentations around our face. In fact, we go to great lengths to avoid that. So nothing that might look like a beard or anything like that on this girl. Alright, so got a nice warm face here now, and I am going to start with this tool. It's like a teardrop shape, and I'm going to just kind of spontaneously put this design in. So I don't know exactly what I want it to look like, so I'm just going to go with the flow. Okay, here's what's happening on there so far. You can see the metal's gotten kind of dark. I showed you earlier my kind of 3 favorite tools. I always, out of those 3, start with this one because it works best when the metal is hot. Now, this one, which is kind of like a moon-shaped chisel, I can actually use this one when the metal is not that hot. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to add some details with that. Some little fringes. This is looking good. I'm probably going to come in through here and add a bunch more of that. I also use this tool for eyelashes. So I'm going to go ahead put in some top eyelashes. So you can see how that's kind of coming together. And then also a tool that I can use, which I may need to sharpen a little bit. It's kind of dulled down, but this one just makes little dots. So we'll see how they're looking. Oh, those look good. So I like these. I think that they, I don't know, they're decorative. They're decorative, so they kind of add a little bit of flair. So I'm just going to keep going with that and sort of finish out the top of the head design and the other eye. I am going to avoid, again, I already talked about this, putting any marks down here. I learned that the hard way. I made a couple of bearded ladies early on, and it just, aside from being kind of funny, it just doesn't work that well. So also what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a pupil in the eye. Now this part's pretty important, getting it on center on both of them so you don't look like you have a lazy eye or crossed eyes. So I'm going to take aim. Maybe a little more than I usually would. You may also have noticed I kind of came in soft with that first hit. I just want to make sure I don't just totally ram it and end up with a pupil in the wrong spot. Alright, I'm happy with that. Good to do the pupils early on so that if you do mess them up, you can either start over, or what I might do is fill them in with a weld, grind them smooth, and then replace them. Number 2 with the treadle hammer. I think I'm going to do a radial design coming out of here. So what I'm going to do is start with the center. And I'm going to start a second row, and I'm going to use those first ones as identifiers. You'll see that when I can, with this tool in particular, I'm kind of rolling it. So I start with the fat part of the raindrop, hit it a couple times, and then I roll it forward onto the tip of the raindrop. So since I've lost my heat, I'm going to come in with my tool that doesn't need as much heat, and I'm going to add some details there. thoughts? I've got kind of another row going there. I'm going to keep going and do a little bit more down her forehead, add a little bit more in here, and then do her other eye as well. As you can see, this with the treadle hammer, this is pretty hard on my body. These days with like a lot of the public art stuff, we do most of our texturing and even detailing under the power hammer, and I'll show you some of that here in a little bit. The only place I'm really using this anymore, because this technique has totally worn my body out, is on faces or on little details where I really want the marks to be precise and a certain way that kind of reflects back to this style, which is a little bit older as far as ones that I've been using in my studio. So yeah, pay attention to your body. This one, this technique, I used to use it on like every single piece that I would make, and it is totally strenuous on your body. Okay, something else I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use this tool to make a mark right here by the nose. I'm going to be careful that I'm not going too deep, otherwise it's going to rip when I'm pushing the nose out here, but I'm going to make it just a little bit easier to push the nose out. Doing that part cold, and the reason is that of course it's easier to go a little too far when it's hot. So I'd estimate I went like maybe a third to a half of the way through the material with that, and we'll see how that comes out. I'm gonna do the same thing down here and then right here where the nose joins the eyebrows. Kind of at the bottom of the nose. Here I've sort of started to define like her little button nose type of thing. I'm gonna pop this in too, start getting it warm for something else. All right, a couple more little finishing touches with the treadle, and then we'll move into shaping. So I just use the teardrop tool to put little dent, like where your lips dent in right there. And then I used it just to do some edge decor around. And now I'm gonna add some little half moon dangles. Dots. And I think I'm going to do, you can see, I think, you know, when I'm doing little dots, I can do that just by not hitting it as hard. Now along the top here, I'm going to finish it up with some bigger dots, so I'm just going to hit it a little harder. Right, and I think I'm happy with my decorative work that I've done on here, so I'm gonna heat her up one more time and flatten her out, and then we'll start with the shaping. Okay, so she is hot and flat, and I'm gonna put my decor side down and using my rounding hammer. Step 1. I'm just going to get a little bit of a shape. Not a whole lot happening during this step, but I like starting out with a little bit of shape. Next step, I'm going to use these like spoon shapers to do the cheekbones. So I like to put, this is basically going to be the line that defines the bottom of the cheekbone. So I like the fatter part to be towards the nose. So start pulling that out. And I'm going to switch it around so that I get kind of a mirror look here, like this. Let's stop and think about it a little. Okay, so now I'm going to turn her over and I'm going to take a look at how even it is. It's not that even. I like this side better. So now I'm going to put this side back in and I'm going to try to bring the crease a little bit lower. Okay. Kind of into that. You can see she's kind of deforming a little bit here. We're gonna bring that back. I think I'm gonna heat her back up and I'm gonna come in and rework that a little bit, but I'm gonna push out her eyebrows a little bit here. Just get that started. And in case you didn't catch it, I'm using one of these fancy ball peen hammers. They're really hard to find, so good luck. Alright, I'm just going to come back in and I'm basically doing the same thing that I was before. I'm just going to try to define it a little bit more. Might even use, let's see. Yeah, I kind of like those. I'm gonna see what happens if I use a little smaller one. Wrong way. Okay. Don't look too bad. I'm gonna go for one more heat, just pushing this this cheekbone out, and then we're gonna move into the chin and the forehead, and then the nose is last. If you do the nose first, you're gonna smash the nose during all these first steps. I like those. They're kind of over dramatic, but as I'm shaping the other stuff, I might lose a little bit of that. So I'm going to start with them pushed out a little further than I think I want them to be. So next step, we're going to do the chin. Okay, so I'm going to use this same swedge block for the chin. I really like the small end for this girl. You can see she's got already a pretty tight chin, so I'm just going to use that. Kind of trying to make sure it's centered, and if it's not, I'm adjusting a little bit. Right, there you go. She's got kind of still some nice puff to her cheeks. I'm going to go ahead and, at this step, I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting. I don't want her to stay deformed, so I'm going to kind of cut this in. It's going to give a nice change in dimension in between the chin and these cheeks down here. And it just adds to the piece. I think right now I'm also going to, you know, your lip here kind of shoots forward from your nose, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that right now as well. Alright, starting to get a kind of nice shape. And now we'll do the forehead. Okay, forehead. I'm going to start in the bigger half of this swedge block. Take a look. I want a little more. So I'm going to come in here, dish it out. I'm also kind of keeping an eye here on the edges. I can see that I indented that maybe where I don't necessarily want to. So I'm going to smooth out that indentation. Alright, let's see here. Not quite symmetrical. Pretty close. This is a little more shaped than this side. It's looking a little better. I don't think that indentation is quite where I want it for her like temple. So I'm going to smooth that out, and I'm going to take care of that in another step. And I'm just going to kind of tap her eyes back a little bit. You can see it's still kind of looks a little messy. And in the first couple steps, I wasn't too worried about how the pushing out the cheeks and the eyelids were deforming the face, but now as I move forward from here, I'm going to be a little more intentional, and if I misshape the face in that same heat, I'm going to try to reshape it, take it back to a good spot. So from here on out, there's going to be a lot of little just tweaking and refining with each step. But I think I'm gonna move into the nose next. All right, for this step, I'm gonna be using this side of the swedge block that has little thinner indentations, and I'm gonna be using this modified ball peen hammer. You can see it's kind of long and skinny. That's sort of what I want the nose to look like. So I'm gonna use this to push the nose out. Alright, this part's a little trickier, and I definitely have dropped pieces doing this, but I'm going to use that tool I just showed you, the ball peen, and I'm going to pin it down, pin the piece down with it. You know, I may have started with a little too skinny of a slot. Maybe not. Let's keep going. That's coming out nice. So I started kind of in the middle of the nose, and I'm working my way down. May work my way up a little here too. Now I'm kind of right on the ball of the nose. And I'm going to push that forward a little bit, but I'm going to use a different tool to finish that out. Let's see what it looks like. Alright, you can see starting to push the nose forward here. Alright, so now I'm just switching to a normal ball peen, and I'm going to pin the piece down with that, take aim, and I'm going to push that out. Okay, see how we're doing. Flip her over. That is not too bad. I think I'd like to see that come forward a little more right here. So I'm gonna, let's see, I'll see if we can do it with this much heat. I may want another heat on that. So I'm kind of remembering where it was that I wanted it to go out further. Gonna go a little higher too. A couple extra whacks can't hurt, right? Right, let's see if we got any movement. Oh yeah, I'm starting to really like that. See how we're getting some dimension there? I don't know that it necessarily needs to go any further forward. I do, however, want to handle these little, the little nose parts, the nostril. So for the next step, I'm going to use one of these smaller little swedge blocks. I started out in jewelry, so I've got a bunch of these fun little things laying around. And then here's the tool I'm going to use to push out the nostril. I'm going to do basically the same thing. I'm going to bring it over. I've chosen which one I'm going to use for the nostril. I may start here and move to this one. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. So I'm going to bring it over, place her on there, pin her down with this, and I'm going to connect with the tool in that way. Alright, so I've got her over, and I'm actually going to start in this biggest one, and I am just going to use a ball peen just to sort of start pushing that out. And the reason I'm doing that is that because of the way that it's curved, if I start with that, I think it's going to slip too much. So basically I'm trying to basically make a little indentation so that the tool doesn't slip around. You can see that's already kind of starting to pull the nose out a little bit, and what this next step is going to do is just round that out. So I'm aiming for that spot there. Awesome. See if I can get the other one out in the same heat. Nice. All right. Oops. Sorry. Yeah, I'm digging how that's looking. So we are going to go back to the other swedge blocks for the next step. Alright, for the next couple of heats, I'm going to be going back and forth between these two tools. I'm going to be pushing the nose forward, and then I'm going to be supporting the part that I pushed forward on the horn of the anvil, and I'm going to be pushing the sides back just to give the nose a little bit more of a refined look. Over the horn of the anvil. And actually, I think I'm gonna use the ball peen for this too. And actually, I'm pretty happy with that nose. The only part I don't like is down here. I really want to push that down a little more. Awesome. All right, so I'm liking what's happening there. All right. And actually, I don't know that there's all that much refining to do. I really like the shape that I've gotten on the nose. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit more critical look at the face. I've gotten the major metal movement done that I want, but I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna look at things that I think I might want to address in the next step. So the cheekbones aren't quite even, so I like this one more. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna try to make this cheekbone look more like this one, make it more symmetrical. The eyebrows up here, I wanna push the forehead forward a little bit so that these aren't just jutting out from there. And you know, aside from that, I think she looks pretty good. So that's what I'm gonna do on this next heat, or next several heats. All right, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit since you've had the close-up views of what I'm doing on these tools. I have the spoons back facing up here, and I'm gonna be just working on those cheeks and on the eyebrows, just doing refining. I'm gonna be looking at the silhouette, the edge of the face, and I'm just gonna be trying to make sure everything looks nice and refined. I'm gonna heat her up again. I'm almost happy with the cheekbones. I'm gonna refine them just a little bit further. Then I'm gonna address those eyebrows as well. one thing that I am being really careful of at this point is that I don't hit the front when it's too hot, and I don't hit it too hard. And the reason for that is that I don't want indentations on the front of the face. Like I talked about in the beginning, you know, we wanted to have a smooth complexion. So those kind of unintentional dents can be kind of distracting. But here's where we are right now. Almost done with the mask. Alright, so after that last heat, I looked at it and I'm pretty much happy with her from like here up. The only part I think I want to make adjustments to is the mouth area. So I dished it out, you remember, and now I think I want to come in. I'm going to support it here so that I don't totally lose all of that. And I'm just going to real gently, I'm going to knock her around a little bit and try to get it symmetrical. I want just a little more roundness on her chin too. So I'm going to come into one of these smaller blocks and I'm just going to just address the tip. Yep, that's nice. Got my roundness, now I've got to straighten it out a little bit. Alright, let's see what I think here. I'm going to push her lip back a little bit. Just on the one side it's kind of uneven. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And what I'm doing when I hold it back like this is I'm sort of softening my eyes and just looking at the whole form and trying to recognize if it's sticking out more on one side or indented more. And what I can see is here in the mouth, the little middle line of the mouth, I just need to push that back a little bit more. Go ahead and call this face done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it cool down. I'm going to clean it up with a cut brush on an angle iron or an angle grinder, and then I'm going to move on to making the little elements that I'm going to decorate her with. One of the reasons I'll clean her at this step is that once I start welding, there'll be places that it's harder to clean up. And it's just going to take the paint or powder coat or clear coat or whatever I decide to put on it better if I have a really clean piece of metal. Okay, and then for the next part of the demo, I'm just going to show you the same technique that I did under the treadle hammer, under the power hammer. So this is, I have a piece just like this in the forge right now getting heated up. I'm going to give it an overall texture, and then I'm going to make some indentations the same way that I did in the face, but using the power hammer. I would not do this with 11 gauge under the power hammer. It's just going to destroy my tools. So this is actually 3/16. This is about the thinnest I would use. Usually I'm using 1/4 inch or bigger under the power hammer, and you're really able to get some nice deep indentations and also some metal movement, intentional or not, under the power hammer with this technique. So I'm going to try to find a good spot and set you guys up to watch that. Okay, so before I get into the actual forging, I'm going to share just some close-ups of tools with you. I have a lot of texturing and fullering and detailing tools. There's some over there, some spring tools for making like ball ends. A lot of them are ordered online. Some of them, there's a texturing tool I made a couple years back. It's kind of getting smushed, but it's actually in pretty good shape. It's probably like 5 years old. And then some basic fuller tools. A lot of these have been made by Chris Paddleford, who is one of my employees. He's my lead blacksmith, and he's amazing and knows a ton of stuff about tool making. So I can draw stuff up and be like, hey man, I wanna make this pattern, and he's like, all right, yeah, I got the tool for that. So he's been an amazing resource, and now I am going to get forging. Okay, so my first step is I'm going to give the plate an overall texture. So I've chosen these two tools, both commercially available. I'm going to start with this one, which I'm going to do an overall texture. Then I'm going to come back and do the edges with this one. I don't really have a huge plan on this. I'm just going to kind of go for it, see how it comes out. I'm not sure how I'm going to use it in the final piece. I may use it as her neck, like her bust line. In which case I don't want to go super heavy on the texture for the same reason that I didn't want to do the texture on the face, but we'll just see how it comes out. If I think it looks too weird as a neckline, maybe I'll use it as part of the headdress. I guess we'll just see. This step is kind of like priming the canvas. So I've got a basic texture, a little bit of edge work just to start taking the piece away from the really manufactured look. I also want to point out that I'm not wearing ear protection, and that is just because I couldn't find my earmuffs. They've gone the way of the left gloves. So I would normally always be wearing ear protection while doing this, but I don't feel like going to find it right now. So, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pop this back in the forge and heat it up, and I'm going to choose my tools for the next step. So I decided I want to do these. These are both tools that Crispy made for some patterns that I wanted. This is just like 3/8 inch square bar welded into a triangle. It's mild steel. This I think is tool steel, just tapered down. We use both. I mean, this tool will get destroyed, but this tool is also super easy to fix and make again. So I'm gonna start with these two simple guys, and I'm gonna do some work that's kind of similar to what I did under the treadle hammer. And the metal's still heating up, so I'm gonna turn it off and be back in a minute. So I'm really liking what that is doing to the sides. I think that if I'm using it as kind of her like chest area, now I'm kind of thinking about, do I want it to be like this or like this? And I think I like it better like this, because this is going to feel, this part will probably go behind her head, and then this is going to feel like a neck. So now I'm thinking about it that way. I'm going to do a few more details down here, and then, you know, maybe I'll put some boobs so it looks like a chest line. All right, so since that last clip, while the metal was heating up, I was playing around with this other shape that I had, the one that's in the fire. It's the same shape. So I had tried her out. It's still kind of warm. Tried it out as the chest piece. Don't like it at all. So changed my game here, and I'm actually going to use the one that I'm forging now as part of a headdress instead. So going into it now, I'm still going to finish texturing, and then I'm going to be thinking of it as the headdress when I start to shape it. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of dish it like this. We'll see. I'm kind of spontaneous when I'm creating these pieces, so if I like something that's happening, if it wasn't intentional, I'm going to go with it and roll with it. So, but my basic plan here is going to be dishing the back of the headdress, and I may curl this part forward a little bit. These are some other little elements that I probably won't have time in this demo to show you, but I may use them in the headdress as little elements. So I just have them kind of pulled out. They're from past projects, and may use them to make this girl a little more fun. Alright, so here we are back at the hammer, and I'm just going to finish texturing, and then I'm going to move into shaping. Okay, so in between the last clip and now, I had an idea and decided that I wanted to try something, but I've never done it before, so I had to make sure I could do it. So for my next trick, I'm going to take a page out of Charles Luton Brain's book, and I'm going to fold form that piece. So I used that other extra piece that I had, and just made sure that what I thought was going to happen was going to happen. I've done this technique in copper quite a bit and in 11 gauge steel, but never in 3/16. So I'm going to show you how we get to here and then where I'm going to go from there. All right, third time's a charm. Okay, so I got my fold a little bit higher than I wanted on that, so I'm going to try to correct that on the next heat. Some things about what I was doing here, I put my texture facing forward in the direction that I was going to hammer and fold it, because I want that to be on the front once I open it up. I tried to put it just a little bit above the center of the form this way so that the crease would end up in the center. Looks like I went a little bit too far. The crease is like maybe 3/4 of an inch above center, so I'm going to try to remedy that on the second heat. To center, but what I can see is that one of those indentations that I put in the texturing is acting as a spot that it wants to fold. So I think what I'm going to do this next time is I'm going to put the opposite side in. I've been putting this side in to the vise. I'm going to put this side in, and I'm going to see if I can correct it. And I'm just basically, I'm going to get it as symmetrical as I can. And if it comes out a little wonky, then we're just going to roll with it and let it fold itself into the design. So I changed my game plan there a little bit, started bending it, and then decided to focus on the end here. When I was doing the sample piece, I didn't get the two tips perfectly aligned, and that was probably the part that I liked least about it. So now I'm going to heat this end specifically, the pointier end, and I'm going to focus on folding that tip. Then I'm going to heat it up again. I'm going to focus on getting this tip so that it's really nicely folded. And then I'm going to come in again and see if I can recenter that middle spine that goes down it. I'm going to do the other tip, and then let's see, what else do I want to do? It's a little off. So I think I'm going to, after I do this end, I'm going to put this side in and see if I can maybe center out the spine a little bit. Otherwise, we're just going to go with it. Okay, I'm getting pretty close, so I am going to heat it up again. I'm going to take it over to the anvil, see what I can do, and then I'm going to smush it under the power hammer. Alright, I think I've got it pretty darn close, so I'm going to heat it up again, and in the next video I'm going to smash it under the power hammer and make this a flat taco. Yeah, it's going to be pretty even. On that heat, I closed it up. I was trying to be really careful when I was folding it that I didn't just whack it really hard and it moved somewhere I didn't want it to. So I mostly got what I wanted. The tip that's going to be showing is pretty darn even. The other end was a little bit off, but it's going to be kind of tucked behind her head anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. And then after I got it closed, what I was doing was hammering on the spine with the hammer just to get that closed and start it moving a little bit. And in the next clip, I'm going to use a fuller tool and I'm just going to hammer along the spine. And what that's going to do is it's going to start to curve it and give it that bean shape. So yeah, that's what you're going to see in the next one. On that heat, I flipped it over so that I had more access to the top tip, which is the part that I really want to curl. So on the next one, I think I'm going to keep it on the side that I had it on just now, and I'm going to focus on kind of the top 3/4 of it, on getting that even and making sure that that tip is curling over as much as I want it to. Oh, darn it. I thought I was recording. Okay. So before I bring the hot piece of metal over to the vise, I'm going to show you the tools I'm about to use. So this is one of my treadle tools. I ground it down so that the chisel is really sharp. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in between the two pieces of metal that are folded together. And I'm going to use this to kind of wedge it in. And then I'm going to pull the two sides apart. Once I get them apart enough that I can grab it with my tongs, I'm going to grab onto it with that, and I'm going to use the leverage of those to pull it more open. And then once I get it open enough, I'll use a hammer to kind of keep opening it. And then we're going to head over to the swedge blocks again and just do some final shaping. of a nice 3D form. It actually looks really nice right now, but I think once I come back and I can refine these edges, it's gonna look even nicer. Right, so I'm just gonna work my way along the lip and just flatten it out a little bit. Or not, I guess I'm curving it, but I'm making it more even. That was all that needed. I think it's pretty nice and even. Woo, drop it. Pretty nice and even. I think I want to dish those a little more though. It actually helps a lot. Just doing just a little bit there in the middle. I may do another heat with this. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna do one more heat, and I'm gonna come into that dishing block, and I'm just gonna, again, just pay attention to the edges. All right, so that my Brent Bailey hammer, as beautiful as it is, gets really heavy really fast for me. So I'm switching now to a little bit smaller rounding hammer. It's also going to allow me to use this dishing block more effectively, I think. And then I've got my bigger ball peen standing by for that as well. Actually, I want to kind of start to hit this out. I think I want to take that out. Okay, I like it, almost. Okay, now I like it. Here's the back side. And here's the front side, which is the side that we're going to be seeing. See if there's anything else that I want to do to it. I think the only thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to heat this part, and I'm just going to hammer it down. I just want this to curl a little bit more than it is. I've got a cute little pea pod curl at the top. And we're gonna take this and a few other pieces that I have, and I'm gonna assemble them into a nice little sculpture for you. All right, so now we're getting into assembly. Not gonna be too exciting, I'm just gonna be MIG welding, but I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about sort of what my thought process is when I'm putting something like this together. I went ahead and I pulled out some old pieces. These were kind of leftover pieces from a sculpture I did called From the Waters, and I'll send a picture along of that in case you want to clip it in. And so I just pulled these aside because I wanted to make the finished piece a little bit more interesting, especially because we've just, you know, I only had enough time to do the face and the top, and that I didn't think that would be cool enough for your finished product. So I'm going to use some of these like tentacle like things. You can see I've got kind of a basic layout right here that I actually am pretty happy with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start tacking stuff together and kind of fitting it up. I'm going to leave it really loosely tacked so that I can break it apart if I decide I don't like it. Let's see. You know, right now the only thing I don't like about this arrangement is that I have 4 of these guys, and I don't like the number 4. I prefer odd numbers or prime numbers, even better. So I'm thinking I may want to get another one of these in here somewhere. Oops. Probably should have set up a little better support system there. But once we start tacking, that's going to look a lot better. So, yeah, I'm just going to turn you off for a sec while I get my welding hood and that kind of stuff, and I'll be right back, and you guys can kind of watch as I put it together. Alright, so I'm going to start, because this was having a tendency to want to fall over, I'm just going to start by tacking these 2 on the front. I'd prefer to have, you know, as little, as few welds visible on the front as possible, but I know that I'm covering this part up with those spirally cloud looking things. So I'm just going to start. I think I'm going to start by stilting it up. This is the trick of working by yourself. I am lucky. I have now almost 10 years in business. I've got a bunch of awesome helpers around, and so an extra set of hands should never be undervalued. So I'm trying to just tack it well enough that it's not going to break apart, but I also want to be able to bend and move it a little bit if I want. So now I'm imagining it hanging on a wall, and I think I actually want this a little further forward. So let's see if I can bend it without breaking my tacks. All right, they were flexing, so they're going to go if I bend it too much further. Try to take it a little further without breaking. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tack them on the back a little bit, because I think they're going to break at the next one. Still able to flex it. There we go. See what that looks like. All right. I think I dig that. I don't think I want to take it too much further. It's got quite a bit of, you know, when it's hung on the wall, it's going to come off the wall a decent amount to make it like a nice 3D piece, but not so much that hopefully they'll be getting in the way of anything. So there we go. And let's see, I had these guys. Try to get these back to where I wanted them.
I'm going to start with the ones that are in the back because I'm putting the clouds in that little circle thing in the front. And so it's going to cover up welds from the front. And then when I do the back, I'm just going to weld it out, and those ones I'll clean up just for the sake of a clean finished look. So I am going to start with this one because I know that that weld is going to be covered up. And again, I'm just tacking them. You know, I want to be able to break them free rather than have to use a cutoff wheel. I do use a cutoff wheel actually quite often because I'll make changes during assembly process, but I like hate cutoff wheels. They're one of my least favorite. Love-hate relationship, I guess. They're super handy, but they scare me. I've seen too many pictures of people with them stuck in their face. Right, so I think I like that. Now let's see, which was the one that I had in the top? I liked that one. I think it may have been this one, but I want that to land a little bit lower, so I'm actually just going to set this here for now, and I'm going to mark it. I'll probably cut it off about here. So then here in a minute, I'm going to go cut that and whatever else I think I need to cut. Alright. Let's see, there's this one. And this one. And I want this part to not be totally symmetrical. I like this curve, so I'm going to try to emphasize that. No, it kind of looks good sort of symmetrical. Maybe we will go with that. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Okay. Okay. Yeah, actually. I usually don't like that exact symmetry, but I actually like it on this one. And it is a little bit asymmetrical. And then when I come in and add in some of the other stuff, I'm going to make sure that it doesn't have total symmetry. But this is kind of cool. I like this look. Tempting to keep welding, but I know if I change my mind, which I do, that I'm going to need to fix that up. So we're going to leave them loosely packed. And then let's see. These guys. This one needs to be cleaned up. It's got kind of some crud on it, so I may take that over to the sander and deal with that if that's the one I decide I want to use. Here we have our two symmetrical ones there. Let's try switching sides, see what that looks like. I don't know, maybe I don't like those. Let's see, there's a smaller one. So one thing I know I want to do is I want to cover up this line, just because I think it's going to make her look better. But then at the same time, I don't want to cover up all this work that I did. So finding the right thing to achieve that may be a little tricky. I like these guys. Let's see what these look like. That's kind of cool, but I don't like it as much as the other one. Ooh, I like kind of like that, but again, I really don't want to totally cover up my thing I've got going on there. Not bad. these are some other neat elements. I don't know if I'm going to use them, but these were really simple. This is just 3 sizes of round tubing that I cut, and then I tack together at the bottom, and then heat them up, and just like be super gentle under the power hammer at first while you're knocking them down, and it just makes these really cool like concentric circles. Here's one that I smashed down a little too fast, and you can see what happened there. It actually looks really stinking cool, but not super reproducible. It was a little hard to control. So let's see. Time to make a commitment, Jody. So I can fiddle like literally all day long. No, those are pretty neat. Am I losing too much of my fold form? Maybe. Okay, I am going to step away for a minute. I'm going to go cut this piece and get it ready to put in, because I know I want that. I know that I want some of these guys, I think. And I'll talk about how I make those in a minute. And then I'm going to go see if I can't find some different parts that I think I might like better for this part, handling this seam here. Be right back. Okay, I'm back and I found some more cool stuff. So, a lot of the projects I do, like the larger sculptures, I make extra parts, or I just end up with extra parts like these that didn't end up going into the piece. So I saved them all. I have them all organized into little bins, and they come in handy for things like this. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to use these particular ones or not. I definitely like these little bangs that she's got going on. I am going to flatten this one out a little bit so it sits better. So a lot of that can just be done cold. If I need to turn the forge on today, I will, but hopefully just a lot of it can be done cold. So I got that guy cut down. Haven't committed to placement on that yet. And then I will probably cover up this seam as well as I can with something like that. So my process on putting these on, once I commit to them, which I'm pretty close to doing, is going to be, I'm going to tack them to each other, but not to this, so that I can flip it over and weld it out well from behind. And then I'm going to weld this on from behind as well. And then I'm going to find a place that I can weld these on from behind. So again, I'm just trying to keep the number of welds on the front to a minimum. Got to keep that mystery, right? So I am pretty well into that. So I'm going to go ahead. The other thing I want to do before I put this on is I want to weld this in so that I can keep that hidden in there. So we'll start here. Okay, and we'll just take, got kind of stuck to there. All right, we'll take that off, and then see if we can get down in this baby. Yep, that's a good one. All right, I dig that. I can pull it forward a little. No, that's where that lives now. Okay. We've got, whoopsie daisy, one of my ball bearings. So I brought over something else as well. These are, well, ball bearings essentially, and they look all shiny like they're coated, but they're not. They are just carbon steel, and they're polished, which is awesome because you can weld them on and you don't have any fumes. So I get these from MSC Industrial, and you'll see if you end up looking at my work where I use a lot of circles to fill in spaces. I find like it's really nice for adding smooth curves and dimension to things. And then I fill in between the little circles with these guys. It adds another really cool element and can fill gaps. So I think I'm going to use this big one up here in the little curl. That it's going to be a little bit tricky to hide the weld. We'll see. We'll see how I handle it. I may just turn it down, turn my welder down a little bit and just try to do a nice little weld there. But again, we will see. I'm going to do that in a little bit. Alright, so that is way more weld than could possibly be needed structurally to hold this on, but I'm going to put a little more on because why not? It's kind of nice to have that reassurance, you know it's never going anywhere. Okay, so then this is going on right there. That's barely going to cover that side of the weld, but basically that's on center there. And because these are a little asymmetrical, I want to make sure that when I turn it over, I know where I want this. So, I know I want it there. I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, I might have to let that cool because it's going to burn my marker off. Let's see. Alright, paying attention to what's up and down there. I can still see my little marks. There's one. Now here I'm going to do a really light tack just in case when I flip it over something is a little off so I can break it. Just enough to stick it on there. Oh, haha, see? That's why I do that. I completely missed. Okay. Okay, so my weld that has to be covered is right there. I'm going to be a little more careful this time. There we are. Getting that symmetry. I'll take that. It's a little asymmetrical, but so is the whole piece is going to be a little asymmetrical. Okay. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to weld this out on the back since I'm going to make that inaccessible in a minute. A little bit of a gap, so I got to build up that weld a little. All right. I also tend to weld as hot as I possibly can. It's comes from when I was in graduate school. One of my professors, John Fick, who's a blacksmith and in the guilds and stuff. He was my metalsmithing teacher in graduate school. And I remember one day he said, "You know, I just like to weld things as hot as I possibly can." And I took that to heart. I've never been great with sarcasm, and I'm not sure if it was sarcasm, but I have carried that that wisdom with me ever since, whether it was sarcasm or not. The other thing that I think I want to do before I weld this piece on is I'm going to come in, I'm going to go over to those dishing blocks I was using yesterday, and I'm going to shape just this part on both sides back a little bit, just to give it a little bit more dimension. That may end up making it stand off, ooh, of this a little bit. Look at that. Ooh, I like it standing off actually a little bit. Look at those cool shadows. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I took these over. I gave these a little bit more shape because I think that'll be more dynamic. And the other thing that I did is I ground off the tippy tips. No reason for them to be super sharp. So I have learned the hard way that people don't like it when they cut themselves on your artwork. So I went ahead and ground that down for you and did some nice curves. So my next step is gonna be getting this arranged just how I want it. Okay, and then I'm gonna choose, where do I wanna do my tack here? Do want a little bit of that shadow, but not too much. I think I'm gonna do a teeny tiny tack there, and then I'm gonna flip her over and see if I can get some contact on the back. Teeny tiny. All right, make sure I'm happy before I flip her and do something permanent that I don't like. Okay. All right, let's find some spots where we can weld some things up. Probably gonna grind this down. I'll like cut off and grind down some of these spots that are sticking over just for craftsmanship in the end. But I'm gonna go ahead and weld here. Over here. So you'll be able to drive a truck over this, and this is not going to break, which is exactly what I'm going for. One thing, this is probably pretty basic welding, but I mentioned I like to weld hot, so I'm welding a lot hotter than this 11 gauge would, necessarily like, but I'm welding to stuff that's way thicker, so I kind of need to. So when I am welding, to make sure that I don't blast a hole through the thinner stuff, basically when I'm welding right here, I'm aiming almost exclusively at the thicker material. And once I see my puddle, I just sort of nudge over to the thinner material, nudge over, and it grabs on there without burning through. At this stage, I'd be super bummed if I burned through the face, because then I'd have quite a bit of rework to do fixing it up, or I'd have to stick a flower on it. That's the other way to fix an accidental hole, widely accepted in the industry. Old stick a bird on it philosophy. Okay, let's see. I was coming for this guy. Did I get him in a couple places? Let's see. And make sure that in order to weld it on this side, I have to pull it back. So I want to make sure I don't dislike how that looks. Nope, totally fine. All right, so the next pieces that I found that I thought were pretty cool were these guys. And I think I'm gonna have to cut them off to make them work, but let's see if I can get them to bend so that they fit behind there nicely. I'm gonna bend them further. Ooh. May not even have to cut them actually, depending on where that falls. Do I like that? Do I think that's adding to the piece? Sometimes when I put a piece up, it's just like real obvious. I'm like, awesome, that totally works. Sometimes I'm not sure, and when I kind of get stuck in that rut, I just ask myself, does it add to the piece or not? So that's kind of what I'm gonna do here. Does this make the piece better? I'm about 50-50. I'm like, yeah, I do like something about it, but can I do better? All right, let's see. I still have, I only have one of these. I don't want to only add one. It's too busy. These are my other things that I was thinking about putting up here that would kind of give the same feeling as that one. Okay. I am pretty into that. And I have these drilled for rivets. So I think that's kind of cool. I don't know what I'm going to rivet on there yet, but maybe something, or I might just put a rivet on there because it'll look pretty. Or I might do something like that. I want to add a few of these for details throughout the piece, so that might be the way to go. We'll see. I can make that choice later. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and say that I do want this one, and I want to cut it right there. Okay? And I'm going to find the other pieces that I want. And actually, now that I look at this, like so, if I were to cut this down and then intersperse with something like that, that might make that a nicer element. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut these off symmetrically just so I have them. I'm still not 100% positive if I'm going to use them or not. So those are on my next stage cutoff list. Here's this one. This one's a little diamond. All I did to make these is I used the ball end tool and made a ball on the end. I drew the taper back. I smushed it, and then I ground it on these ones. These ones I smushed it, and then I used another tool to push the middle in, and then and then drilled them with the intention of riveting, using a secondary plate and riveting it on. And I may still do that. I'll go see what cool things I have that might work for that. I'm digging this. The only thing I don't like about this is everybody, not everybody, but I often get the comment on pieces that they look like Medusa. And that's pretty much unintentional every single time. I've never intentionally done a Medusa, but when you take things that look kind of, I don't know, like forged bar that's been bent, people see snakes. So I guess that's fine. But if I do too many up here, it's definitely going to start looking like Medusa. I do, however, like these two very much. I think this one, if I cut it off right here, is going to look good. All right, so I have two for that side. One kind of spade and one circle. There's another spade. There's another circle. Those ones look like. Circle, spade. Hello. Yeah, I mean, we're getting Medusa-y, but I dig it. So, whoops. The whole Sharpie came apart. Come on. There it is. Alright, this one was here. Now I'm going to cut this off. About there. Alright, we got those guys. This would be my kind of match for that one. Those ones are not symmetrical. Let's see what we've got. There's another circle. Don't dislike that. And now this may be my opportunity to make this a little bit less symmetrical. I do want to put a little guy on there. So I'm going to make it that one. And then one more for this side. Let's see. Those two are both curving to the left, so let me see what I've got that curves to the right. There we go. Another one's short. Alright, I'm going to cut this one a little longer. And always cut it shorter. Alright, so now I have 5 pieces to cut, and I want to cut those 2 pieces, and I have my Sharpie lid. So I'm going to go do those cuts. I probably will clean these guys up and just clean up the shape a little bit as well. And then I'll be back for the next round of assembly. Okay. Here we go again. So I cut these off, and I think I know where I want to use them. So I think I want kind of like this, but they're starting to look kind of like horns. And I know that I want those other squiggly things in there. So what I think I'm going to do is put them on more at like a 45 here. What I like about that is it frames the fold form. And it kind of, it adds some dimension so that if this is wall hung and you're seeing it from the side, it just adds another dimension there. I'm not really that concerned about covering this up. I'm not super attached to that view. So, let's see. I think I'm going to start with that, but would that actually be better to wait and put on after I put on the squigglies? I think it probably would. So, come in here. Remember what the plan was with these babes. Ooh, okay, crisscross. Nope, don't like that as much. Oh, see, I kind of like how that's hugging. I'm gonna tack that. I'm not gonna commit to it, but I'm gonna tack it. Non-committal. That's what they used to call me. In fact, they still do. Now this is what I had liked before. I think maybe it was a different piece. No, it was definitely that piece. I'm gonna get this side on first. Here's where I'm gonna let it start going a little more asymmetrical. Ooh. I am actually pretty into that. Glue stick, please. Right, and here's my little shorty. So I know he's gonna go on kind of like that. What is this gonna look like if they're coming up here? Is it too Medusa-y? What do you guys think? Okay, I'll take that feedback into consideration. I'm gonna go for this. I think I like this one. More like sun rays. I think sun rays. Now where does this lone squiggle belong? I mean, it's like for sure getting kind of Medusa-y, but I sort of love it, so I'm gonna go with it. Just a little guy right there. Cool. I'm probably gonna want to make a third one of these now, even though I was wanting to be asymmetrical. Yep, we're gonna cut that baby. This baby. God darn it. They are just not making Sharpies the way they used to. Okay. And then we want one more little guy. Triangle, circle, other shape. Triangle, other shape. Circle. Ah, that's what I wanted, was one going down. Alright, those two need to go on the next cut. And then we have, see, this is kind of nice. It just sort of, these are the only two that are plates like that right now. So I feel like this is gonna just make that a little nicer. And look at how nice those curves fit up with the pieces above them. The other thing I like that this does, even though I'm not 100% sure if I love it, is it takes away from the snaky snake look. Just a little. Yep, there we go. Gosh, that's like almost a perfect fit. Not as much on this one. But I think I like how that curves away more. I'm going to tack this one because I'm feeling fairly confident that I want it there. This one, like this. So this is one part where it's like I've started to go asymmetrical. I put this on here. It's definitely asymmetrical, but it's like close enough to symmetrical that it almost looks like a mistake. That would mean I'd have to pull the other one off. And I don't know if I want to do that. I'm going to real quick keep you guys on here. I'm just going to shape this a little more. Okay. Now, see, I even like this side more than that one, actually. What if I were to bring it down? No. I think I like it enough to tack it. I'm going to do it. Actually, this one's going to go on to the list of things to cut because I think it's going to fit better where I want it if I cut it. Okay, goes with my other cut babies. And then these were the other ends of those. Let's see if there's any home for them. In theory, I like it. In practice, not sure. I do want another fat something. Ooh. What would that look like behind there? I also brought this little guy, so I think he might be a neat little finishing touch, but also might be too much. I think I'm going to wait till the end to see if I want to put a little dragonfly on there or not. Okay, so what I can do before I go cut those things off is I can put my ball bearings in. Probably should turn down the heat on this a little. Just doing a little test on a strap piece to see what it looks like before I do it on my piece. Make sure I like the settings. Okay. That just looks pretty in that side. I don't think I want to weld it from that side. I'm gonna do a couple more over here. Nice. It looks almost pretty enough to not grind, but not quite. So I'm probably gonna, I may grind and clean that up before I do the finishing work. But we'll see. Okay, and then let's make sure. I gotta go gather some more ball bearings, and I'm gonna do those cuts, and I will be right back. Okay, I have returned. I am feeling like I'm gonna do the ball bearings in these things. So I did 2 different sizes of ball bearings. This one's a little smaller. So what used to be a rivet hole is now a plug weld hole. I'm gonna leave my welder on the lower setting right now because I wanna make sure I don't fill up that hole before I actually get penetration. Okay, looks pretty good. All right, confirmed. And then this one's gonna go next to it. I think I wanna do a bigger ball bearing in that one because I wanna have some variation. This actually would have been the easier way to do it before welding those on, but I think it'll be not too difficult on there anyway. Confirmed again. Oops, not that one though. Alright, so I went small, big. I'm gonna go small in that guy. Then probably small again. Small, big, small, big, small. Yep. Okay. Small, small, big, small. My finger's gonna get hot, but it's okay. Small, small. Big. Small. Flip that over and see. Ooh, I like. Whoops. Forgot that was just kind of fun. That's okay. Ooh, I can decide if I want to move it now. Do I like it tighter? Nope, I like it wider. Oh, next time I flip over, I'm going to commit to those. So this process is pretty similar to how I was building my wall hung portraits when I was on the road doing shows back in like the first 5 years I had my business. I would make work, pack up the van, travel around, pop up tent shows, sell the work, come back, rinse and repeat type of thing. It was really a lot of fun. There were some great times and it was super exhausting. So I'm really grateful to not be doing shows anymore. But that's kind of a sidetrack. The reason I brought that up was, a lot of the pieces that I do these days are more intentional. So they start with a pretty finished design. I definitely change things spontaneously throughout the process on almost everything, aside from like really geometric designs. But this is kind of a throwback to how I used to make my other pieces. I'd play around and I'd find like cool techniques to learn and make a bunch of elements and put them together. And they'd usually have like kind of a plan, but this part is really fun to me because it's like when I walked in here this morning, I had no idea how it was going to evolve. And I feel like every piece that I add, it's kind of exciting. So that's just how I feel about that. See if I can real gently bend that one back just a little. No. Oh yeah, I did, but it's like all but broken. So I actually might start in making these again on the weekend. So many extra parts, and these would be fun little things. I do events in the summer, like little art hops and 4th of July and yada yada yada. And anymore, I don't really have anything in my gallery because everything that we're doing is on commission. And so it might be fun to have some little things like this in the gallery. Just gonna have to take a peek from the front. To lean back a little, I think. Yeah. Cool. I definitely think I do like having this sheet back here. I think it adds something, and when we get into color, I think it's going to be even better. I've been thinking throughout this how I'm going to finish it, being that it's for a blacksmithing specific group. Do I try to keep the nature of the material? But I think I've decided I'm going to do more of the process that I do on my exterior work, which is I'm going to give it a full coat, base coat of brown paint, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you guys a dry brushing technique that I use. It's basically what I use in all of my exterior pieces. I feel like I want this to have color, so I'm going to do it that way. And I know a lot of people ask me about my finish a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and share that with you guys. Yeah. Ooh, I like that. think it to land kind of right in the middle there. Is it better with or without? It is better with, for sure. How is it the best? That I like a lot, actually. See if I can turn it and get to a spot where I can tack it, where it won't be seen. I think I can. It's barely on there though, so. Ooh, yeah, I totally like it. Okay, feel happy with that. So I'm gonna flip and I'm gonna do weld out on these things because I wanna make sure that I can get a good weld out, and some of those are like barely on there. So, when I pause there and then restart welds, the reason I'm doing that is because there's a gap that I have to jump. So I'm turning the weld off and letting it, like the pass in front of it sort of harden, and then I'm using that as a bridge to guide the next weld across the open hole. Sometimes I get a little weld happy because I like it. So, like I said, you could like probably run a truck over this and it would be fine. Oh yeah, these babies. Okay, that guy's bugging me. I may go cut him off in a minute. Or maybe I'll just do that as part of the final cleanup. So I gotta grind a couple, wanna grind that down. And I'll have to figure out where the hanging wire goes. But let's finish the front first. We need this one. This one goes in this approximate area. Nope, still too much. I mean, that's like the only place I feel like it's kind of working, because it makes it like a feature. I want to like put it as a kind of an afterthought, but I think because these are so busy, better, worse, better, worse, possibly better. Possibly almost sold on that. Okay. On that side, it kind of goes behind this guy. Let's see if that works on this one. May not, unless I can bend that out. Actually, that's a little bit more symmetrical. Attack that. It's got some pretty decent spots to join in the back too, which is good. Yeah, I like that. All right. I am going to weld that better so it doesn't break, but that is currently holding me up a little bit. So I'm going to have to push it, and I might have to grab my torch and heat and push, but let's see if I can do it cold. All right, let's get this on there a little better. That's kind of cool. It's just literally resting like on those two tips, which is kind of neat. You know, if I were to put the hanging bar across there, then when this hangs on the wall, there'd be just a little bit of air that passes behind it, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah, actually, I like that even better. Okay, what finishing touches? Still debating. Do we like him? And it makes it look more plant-like, which I definitely feel like is happening here. I've got a very like lotus sort of feel. I'm debating if I like those two. If I want to cut them off. I think I do like them. I like that even actually better than up there. It'd be tough to hide a little weld in there. No, not touching. I'm feeling about 67% committal about that. So I'm gonna turn it off for a minute. I'm gonna do a little run around, see if I find any more little pieces that I want to put on here. I might be trying to put on some more of these things. I love these. So I'll be back once I have gathered my last elements. Okay, so I think we are pretty much almost there. So these are the two little pieces that I brought to add. I really like how that finishes this off here. I think she looks like a queen. And there's of course just this little guy that I think he has a home on here somewhere. And that there might be it. But I'm gonna put these ones on. And then I'm going to play around with that a little bit. Alright, I'm going to take one last look, make sure I don't want to adjust these at all. Ooh, that one's not sticking. gonna have to turn the heat up there a little bit because I've got this big fat one. Just see what it would look like if it were lifted up a little versus down. No, I think I like it down. Yeah. Okay. Turn it up a little. Okay, so if I don't make these look pretty, I'm going to have to clean them up. So I'll do my best. Not too shabby. I will probably still clean that up a little bit when I'm getting all the BBs off and stuff. Okay. Before we do final touch, let's look. One more assessment. Way too busy. Don't love it. I think we are there. Okay. Commitment time. Middle of the nose. No. There. Maybe my favorite because it's subtle. Makes it a little bit less symmetrical. And this part right here that was like really busy to me, it cuts down on the busyness. No. No. I like that better. The other spots I was looking at was like up in here. That I don't hate, but I like that better. That's like ceremonial if it's up there. It's like the feature. This is like the dragonfly landed on the piece. All right, well, I could quite possibly do this for like 5 minutes, and basically we're pretty close to done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make my final choice. You will have to be surprised by the spot that I pick, and I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to cut off pieces, make sure it's all welded and solid, clean it up, and then I'm going to give it a coat of paint, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you guys my dry brush finishing technique for putting color on it. So, okay, I'll see you guys soon. Alright, so here she is. Has just an overall coat of a dark brown. It's oil rub bronze. Metal specific paint from Home Depot. So I am going to start with this teal color. I used to have a teal that I liked better from Home Depot, but they discontinued it, and this one's the closest. And I'm going to start with this because it's the brightest. And I want to not probably put it on as the last layer because I want it to be more subtle. So what I'm gonna do is get a little bit of paint on the brush, and then I'm gonna like wipe most of it off. Now I'm gonna come in here. I'm pretty sure I want her eyes to be teal. I'm gonna start there. Okay. Too bright. All right. I'm gonna come in. What I'm doing is I'm just really brushing light. I want those recessed areas to stay dark. Oops, I got some on her cheek. That's okay. Alright. I may come back, after I build up with the red and violet, I may come back with a little more teal and just touch her up. I think I want her to be pretty bright though. That's just what I was feeling while I was making her. I can just see her having a really nice, colorful finish. I am going to come over this with another color, but I like it how it looks when there's more than one color layered up. So I am going to start with an undercoat of teal on quite a bit of her. Isn't that beautiful how it brings the texture out? Put just a touch on this one, not go over the whole thing, just a little bit so that that kind of carries through. I think it makes it a little bit more unified in the end. There's little touches of it here and there. Kind of paying attention. I'm going for about like an approximate symmetry. So if I did a little touch over there, I want to do a little touch over here as well. Yeah, I'm digging that. Little super duper light there. Okay, and now I'm going to come in with the red right. I like that. So then, the second to last step is, this is a brass metal rub from Sculpt Nouveau. Whoopsie daisy, sorry I moved you again. Better double check it's not. Yeah, that looks okay. Alright, so I'm gonna get this on the brush. Once again, I'm gonna mostly get it off. You can go backwards in this technique. You can cover it up and kind of start again, but it's not what you want to do. So I am going to just do a real light coat of this, and I'm going to build it up. So when I do the clear coat, it's going to dull down the brass a little. So I'm coming in just a little hotter than what I want for the final finish. Okay. I think I like it. I'm going to look at it in the sun after. Do the back side. I'm not going to do color on the back, but I am going to bring this brass around. Go back to those makeup tutorials. You don't want them to be able to see where the line is. So this piece you are going to be able to see from the side. I actually had it hung up on the wall when I was doing the hanging loop. Looks pretty cool. It's got to be hung high, so because she's like looking down. But I think you put it above a doorway or something. I think that would be, that's where I would put it. Above somewhere you're passing through. Set the mood, set the tone for the room. Scotch-Brite had stuck on there. Cleaned it with that. The last step right before I right before I painted it. A little bit of that on the hook, why not? All right, beauty. Yeah, I dig her. I think I want a little more red though. I'm gonna come in with the brass over that, but I just think I want a little more red. Who is playing that classic rock and roll?
Tap house.
Oh, that tap house over there. They're playing that classic rock and roll.
I don't even think I would call that classic rock and roll. It's like terrible hair metal.
That's my sweetheart in the background. I'll introduce you to him before I close down here. He is also a phenomenal welder, also in addition to being my sweetheart, phenomenal welder, and he blacksmiths too. How can you imagine my luck finding one like that, huh? His work is very different than mine. If you want to have him do a demo, I bet he'd enjoy that. He's a good teacher. I used to do spontaneous steel sculpture from scrap welding classes, and for a while he and I taught him together, and it was really fun. And then I bailed out on him, and he kept teaching him. So he is a good teacher. All the ladies that would come, it was like 90% ladies that would come to our classes, and they loved him. They loved him. You'll see why. He's a real catch.
Like all the fish I didn't catch.
Like all the fish he did not catch today. He took a weekend to go fishing, and it snowed. But he did get to fish a little bit, but he didn't catch any, so that's okay. That's why they don't call it catching. Okay. Look at her in the sunshine. Gotta get this part. Alright. I think I like her. The only thing is I'm going to settle down this green a little bit in her eyes. I did that on another sculpture where I made them green. And every time I look at it, it looks like a White Walker from Game of Thrones. So the only other thing I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it in a minute because I gotta go get a different paintbrush, is I'm going to do the pupils dark again with the brown. So yeah, that's it though. That's the finish, and then the only thing we gotta do now is clear coat. I use Sculpt Nouveau Clear Guard. It's gonna like transform it. This is like the magic right here. But I'm gonna let this dry. So I am gonna let you guys go. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, hope you enjoyed my stream of consciousness, the explanations of welding, and yeah, I hope you guys all stay well, and I'll see you sometime.